In 1992, an 8-year-old left-back was called up for the Brazilian national team despite playing for a second division club. He was very short, but he was extremely strong and had an aggressive playstyle not seen in most fullbacks. Soon, one name would be mentioned by all the first division scouts. That name was Roberto Carlos. This got him a specially set up loan spell at Atlético Mineiro, which worked out almost as tryouts for the team. It would fail to impress them, and Atlético Mineiro would pass on the opportunity to sign him. He spent 2 more seasons with the second division team, managing to get promoted in his last year there. This was enough so that he'd get a chance at first division glory, as Palmeiras signed him on a free deal which would prove majorly lucrative, as Roberto Carlos quickly cemented himself as a first team player, helping them get 2 league titles in the 2 full seasons he spent there. It was time for his European move, and Inter Milan managed to sign him for just 3.5 million euros. On his debut, in proper Roberto Carlos fashion, he laid the ball down 30 yards away from the goal and boom! Sadly, the rest of the season wasn't so explosive. Inter finished 7th and decided to sell Roberto Carlos. But he had built up a name for himself and some other big clubs wanted to give him a chance. So Real Madrid dropped 6 million for the fading prospect. I'm pretty sure you don't need to watch the rest of the video to realize that. Holy hell, that was a bargain. His success at Madrid was immediate. His spot on the first team was undeniable, and right on his first year he would be in La Liga, and his performances were enough to make all of Brazil know that he had to take part in that year's Copa America. In a preparation match against France, Roberto Carlos would once again prove that he wasn't comparable to any other player, a true one-of-a-kind. A free kick would be given to Brazil, 40 yards away from goal. Roberto Carlos would once again position the ball on the spot, walk back all the way to the center circle, wait for the whistle, and once it was heard, he would tiptoe his way to the ball and shoot it. 10 yards wide. Even the ball boy would duck on instinct, thinking it would hit him, and just as it seemed like it would be a wasted free kick, the ball would magically curl into the net, leaving Bartes stuck to the ground. This was most likely the greatest free kick of all time.
What am I afraid of? What the fuck am I afraid of?
You're afraid of me, you're afraid that I won't love you back. You know what, I'm afraid too.
Brazil was in full force that year. In the group stage, they would win every single game and get 10 goals in the process. Roberto Carlos would play the first 2 games and be rested for the next one. Then, it'd come back for the knockout stage, where once again Brazil would destroy their competition, getting 12 goals in 3 games. And just like that, Roberto Carlos got his first international trophy. Now that he had gotten a taste of international success, it slingshot himself onto his next trophy, bringing the Confederations Cup home as Brazil defeated Australia in the final, beating them by an astonishing 6 goals. That year, he would make it to 5th place in the Ballon d'Or standings. I can't stress how notable it is for a left-back to accomplish such a thing. His next season would be awful domestically, finishing only 4th in La Liga, but would be notable as in the Champions League Real would top their group and go on to defeat both Leverkusen and Dortmund as they got to face Juventus for the title of European champions, who were playing their 3rd consecutive final as they likely were the strongest team in the world. Regardless, Mijatovic would defeat the odds and score at the 67th minute for Real to hold the lead and get the title. That summer, Roberto Carlos had the chance to get the World Cup and join the elite group of players who have won all 3 major trophies. Brazil would have luck on their side, getting easy draws all the way to the semi-finals, where they would beat the Netherlands and be 1 match away from splendor. That match would have them facing France, who were the hosts of the tournament. That day, one player would stand out, and it wouldn't be Roberto Carlos, but actually Zinedine Zidane, who would score twice in 18 minutes to kill all hopes for Brazil and cement himself as the best player in the world at the time. As he would get the Ballon d'Or that same year by the highest percentual margin ever seen, as Roberto Carlos would be nominated once again. The next season, he would not take any trophies home at club level, besides the Intercontinental Cup. Despite this, he would make the most of the summer as Brazil validated their Copa America title, once again obliterating every team who dared to face them, getting 10 goals in 3 group stage matches and 7 over the 3 knockout stage matches. This team was seriously unplayable, and Roberto Carlos would once again make it into the Ballon d'Or shortlist. The following year would follow the same route as the 1997-1998 season, as Real Madrid disappointed massively domestically, finishing 5th on the league. But they would go all the way in the Champions League, as they would get through on minimal margin wins versus Man United and Bayern Munich, and then Real would destroy Valencia in the final 3-0, as Roberto Carlos got his 2nd Champions League title and a 4th Ballon d'Or nomination. In the 2000-2001 season, Real would this time succumb to Bayern in the semi-finals, but they would save their season by winning the league, which they hadn't won in 4 years now. Despite this, his efforts would still be rewarded, as once more Roberto Carlos would be nominated to the Ballon d'Or. It had been 5 years of sheer dominance by the part of Roberto Carlos, who had already cemented himself as a legendary left-back, maybe even the best of all time by then. Still, it would not settle, and the 2001-2002 season would blow all previous out of the water, as despite finishing 3rd in the league, Real would top their Champions League group, destroy Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals, then send away their country rivals Barcelona and end it all by defeating Bayer Leverkusen in the final, 2-1. This year was also Roberto Carlos' 2nd chance at World Cup glory after his defeat to France in 1998. Brazil would top their group, which they got an easy draw in once again, as they made it to the round of 16, where they would put 2 past Belgium, getting England in the quarterfinals, who they would beat before giving the same treatment to Turkey, as they made it to the final, where they would face Germany. This time, it would be another all-time great, who would score 2 goals in quick succession to get the title for his homeland. And that man was Ronaldo Fenomeno, who was no other than Roberto Carlos' best friend, as they even shared a room during the international tournaments. These two would battle each other for the Ballon d'Or that year. Roberto Carlos won both the Champions League and World Cup trophies, and Ronaldo won only the World Cup. Despite this, the Ballon d'Or always favored attacking players, and let's be reasonable, there is a reason it was known as the phenomenon. Regardless, Roberto Carlos would get 145 points in the Ballon d'Or voting, as Ronaldo got 169, edging past the left back to the award. This was the closest a defender ever got to being declared the best player in the world up till that moment. The next year, he'd get his 3rd Spanish League title and lose to Juventus in the semi-finals of the Champions League, would once again make it to the final and lose. Roberto Carlos would be nominated for the Ballon d'Or for the 7th time in a row, as the next year he would finally fail to get any titles and would be excluded from the shortlist. This would mark the slowdown of his career, as he was now on his way to his 32nd birthday. Still, he would make it to the shortlist once again in 2005, despite also not winning any titles that season. He'd played 2 more seasons at Real, winning the league a 4th time in his last year. He finished his career by playing 3 seasons in Turkey with Fenerbahce, where he wouldn't manage to win any relevant titles. He'd then leave for Brazil, playing for a single season at Corinthians. At last, he'd sign a player-coach contract with Anzi in Russia. This time would be most notable for the racist abuse he suffered, which got to the point of him leaving the match early as a banana was thrown at him for the 2nd time that season. A truly unfortunate way to say goodbye to a player who might have been the greatest left-back of all time, only dividing that claim with another Brazilian left-back, who was his protege over his last few years at Real Madrid, Marcelo. Roberto Carlos is one of my favorite all-time players, strong as a bull, arguably the most powerful shot ever seen in football, a massive trophy cabinet and a symbol for defensive excellence in football. Roberto Carlos left his mark in football like very few players managed to. May football never lose sight of this kind of brilliance. Getting into the ranking system, as he is a fullback, he will be judged differently from any player we've seen so far. First, we will take into account his dribbling, which was fantastic, but not his most predominant feature, so he will get a 7. Then we will focus on his speed, which Roberto massively distinguished himself from other players. This man was so explosive, it was unbelievable to watch, and he should get a 10 out of 10. The third attribute to take into account is his playmaking. He got all the way across the sidelines like it was nothing, easily making the team progress on the pitch. For this, he gets an 8 out of 10. Then we will have a look at his defensive traits and physicality, and at first I considered giving him a lower score because of his height, but the man was so strong. Anyone who's had a look at his legs knows what I'm talking about. Also, he never gave up on a ball, and he gets 7 out of 10. Lastly, his mentality. He seemed to always be determined to win, always ready to make another sprint down the wing to cancel a counterattack. He had all the willpower in the world. Still, he is known for lacking a bit of professionalism, as he maybe was influenced by his teammates into a certain lifestyle, and he gets an 8 out of 10. When it comes to his legacy, we will take into account the usual attributes. First, we will judge him on his consistency. He never disappointed, always giving it all on the field, either for Brazil or Real Madrid. Despite this, he never proved himself in another major club, even failing to fit in the Inter Milan squad. This will get him an 8 out of 10. Secondly, Flair. It's hard to judge a defender on this sort of thing, but if there is a defender who had it, it surely was Roberto Carlos. This gets him a solid 9 out of 10. We will also consider his trophy cabinet, which, well, let me just list his accomplishments. 2 Copa Americas, 2 Intercontinental Cups, 3 Champions Leagues, a World Cup, a Confederations Cup, and 8 Ballon d'Or nominations. That's a 10 out of 10. The fourth attribute is longevity, which at 11 years at the top of Europe, he will get a 7 out of 10. Lastly, the icon factor. Everyone still wonders how he hit those free kicks. Everyone's jaws drop when they go back and watch his highlights. His name means power in the world of football. He gets a 9 out of 10. This totals out to 83 out of 100, distancing him from all other players at the top of the ranking. I know people will question how I rated him higher than Ronaldinho, and well, I totally get that. I had the same thought, but after seriously considering, I think it's fair, since no matter how great Ronaldinho was, he seriously disappointed in many aspects of his game and legacy. Still, he did get 4 perfect scores, which I doubt we will be seeing anytime soon. Roberto Carlos, El Hombre Bala, the Bullet Man. Football will never allow your name to be forgotten. So this is the end of the 5th video in the series so far. It's going pretty nicely. Some episodes did better than others. The Wayne Rooney one, kinda, I don't know. That one didn't go too well. I don't know why. Like, maybe YouTube just didn't like it, wherever. But still, they're doing pretty great. I'm really happy with how the channel is going. If you enjoy the series too, you should go ahead and like and subscribe. Help me out a bit. I take like 8 hours of my day every once in a while to make one of these videos, and it's really hard work. I know it might not seem like it, but well, if you feel like supporting a creator, go ahead and like and subscribe. You know what to do. So yeah, this is it. See you in the next episode.